dignified silence. Hello, my name is Tom Downey. Well, it's good enough for my father and his father before him. And on behalf of Revival Press and the Limerick Writers Centre, I'd like to welcome you all to the launch of Homesick at Home by Kiyoshi. We are delighted to be publishing one of Dublin's finest poets. And to fill us in on the role of Revival Press and the Limerick Writers Centre, please welcome Director of the Centre, Dominic Taylor.
Right, as Tom said, my name is Dominic Taylor, and I'd like to welcome you all here this evening. And I would especially like to thank the management and staff of the Temple Bar Gallery and Studio for so generously making this space available to us, Studio 6. The Limerick Writers Centre is a non-profit organisation located in Limerick City. We have a deep belief in community and creativity. And it is a great honour for us to have the opportunity to publish the debut poetry collection of Kate O'Shea, Homesick at Home. I would like to warmly welcome Kate here this evening, along with her friends and family, I think. Is there family members here? No? Okay. Revival Press is a community publishing initiative and is the poetry publishing imprint of the Limerick Writers Centre. Now, I do not have to remind you that we live in a world dominated by large commercial publishers. In recent years, large media businesses, people who privately own radio stations, television stations, magazines and newspapers, have bought up more and more of the traditional publishing houses. And we have now reached a stage where a small number of large conglomerates, perhaps 3 or 4, are in control of publishing and are basically in control of what we read. A noted German publisher, Klaus Lagenbach, recently and very tellingly reminded us that this domination of publishing by a small number of publishing houses will fundamentally change the way we read and what kind of books are available to us. He went on to say that small publishing houses or small publishing projects are run by people who do books because of their passion or belief, certainly not because of the profits that will generate. And may I say that the work of the Limerick Writers Centre and Revival Press is also carried out by people because of their belief and their passion, and because of a love of writing, books and literature. Let's make this as explicit as possible, Wagenbach has stated. If books with small print runs disappear, the future will die. Kafka's first book was published with a printing of 800 copies. Bertolt Brecht's first work merited 600 copies. What would happen if someone had decided that it was not worth it? You will notice that the same books are reviewed in all the papers. Firms that own publishing houses and newspapers and magazines do not hesitate to give a disproportionate amount of space and attention to the books emanating from the companies they control. These publishers are not run by literary editors, but by marketing people. The result is, as I stated earlier, that they control what a sizable number of the population reads. And as the author Edna O'Brien recently stated, real literature is on the decline and being marginalised. Books today, in many cases, become mere adjuncts to the world of mass media, offering light entertainment. This inevitably leads to control on the spread of ideas and is stricter and more pervasive than anyone would have thought possible in a free society. We believe that the threefold structure of society, the political, the economic, and the cultural, should be interdependent but not dominated by any one sphere. To allow private interest to monopolize the most powerful means of reaching the human mind is to undermine democracy. Without the honest presentation of facts and ideas by people whose primary interest is not profit, there can be little intelligent basis for the determination of public policy. We believe that writing and literature, whether in the form of poetry or prose, in the words of the US poet Philip Levine, matters in the way that it has always mattered, to make sense out of our emotional lives and to show us the possibilities of language. Through our publishing, through our workshops, and through our public readings, We want, in the words of the French philosopher, author and journalist Albert Camus, we want to bear witness to that in all of us which wants to live, which refuses to die. Hence, we're delighted to publish Kate O'Shea. Her words are not time-worn or stereotyped, but are full of strength and life. She does not relent in her effort to rethink the world, to look at the world in a different and vibrant way. Her words beat permanently for all those who stop to reflect. Her words do, as Seamus Heaney has written, catch the heart off guard and blow it open. My colleague Pat McMahon, in a social media post paraphrasing the American poet and critic Adam Kirch, reminds us that for much of the 20th century, poetry was a dangerous art. Readers reacted as to poets such as T.S. Eliot, Robert Lowell, Sylvia Plath, as those poets wanted them to, with shock, sometimes with outrage, but always with the fascination that only genuine risk can bring. We know that much contemporary poetry can be obscure and formless, unchallenging even. Kate's work is, again as Pat McMahon has posted, full of electric shocks and surprises. In Homesick at Home, Kate O'Shea makes poetry a dangerous art again, and her willingness to confront areas of experience that we are more comfortable ignoring. Conformity, conformity, conformity. I'm sick of language, as she writes. Poetry in this book reads like no one else's. This is poetry which is alive in its language and its music. You can feel the language on every page. With her very individual social interest, Kate O'Shea is able to put so much into context. She is an exhilarating and unsettling writer, and that is why I believe that people are going to love this book, with its page after page of astonishments and its unsparing and unsentimental honesty. And that is why Revival Press are so delighted to be the publisher of Homesick at Home. Thank you, Kate O'Shea, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dominic. Now I'd like to welcome Ross Hathaway, who will officially launch the collection. Ross Hathaway's poetry has been published widely. He has read in Ireland, the UK, the USA, Lithuania, Australia and New Zealand. And he is a co-founder and organiser of the Sunflower Sessions in Dublin. His third book, How to Sleep with Strangers, was published by Thurs Press in 2017. His previous books, The Gentle Art of Rotting and Pretending to be Dead, were published by Seven Towers. Ladies and gentlemen, Ross Hathaway.
Delighted to be asked to launch this book at last. I've known Kate for many years. I've been at readings and read her work in journals and anthologies, and as well as her chapbook, Crack Poet. But for most of us, Kate has stayed way under the poetry radar, or if you take Quincy Lear's view, she's been criminally neglected in poetry circles in Ireland. There are 63 poems in Homesick at Home. This is Kate's first and long overdue collection, but it reads more as a collected than a first book. And as I think for the best collecteds and selecteds, there's much that's startling when it's put together in a broader context. Kate's told me the title comes from G.K. Chesterton, storyteller of mystery and surprise. I'm not surprised by that. I was surprised and delighted by so much that was new in the book, and by this, the last verse in the book, which is from Hell Poem. This is usually the point where most of us in our role as poets, as wedding singers, we like to orchestrate a bit of reflective calm for the reader, to close the night down, wrap things up and bring it down a little. But not this time. What she says is, my temper is everywhere, licks the air like petrol. You like the smell but know it's bad for you. The colours are slimy, shiny, a dark rainbow. Nothing at the end of it, maybe a heart attack. No love lost. If you're lucky, it will take you suddenly. Anthropologists claim fire as our greatest invention. I bet they pray for rain. This is an astonishing collection. It resonates, it vibrates in a physical sense, it trembles in its contact with the world and with the reader. It can be coruscating. For me, it's largely unpassable. There's an indivisible coherence in each poem, and the book overall is a coherent response to a fractured world as the poet finds it. There isn't a search for redemption, but redemption may be possible, each poem says, if you're alive to that chance. If you want an entry card, there is a manifesto statement. There's one in the Doll's House. It's simple and demotic, perhaps, in which Kate says, I am a parent in the language I write. Now, the authorial voice there may or may not be the author. That's not really the point. But that voice is a constant. It's consistent and it's everywhere. There's no room for detachment here, this voice says. There is no backing off from the moment or from the world. There's no room for disengagement in these poems. They are above all heavily engaged poems. This is fully engaged writing. If this were sport, it would be a full contact sport. Now, the writer of these poems may disagree with me, but I have not the microphone, but I have the lectern for the moment. But it's time for the star of the show. I'm going to hand you over to Kate, but I'd just like to read one of my favourite poems. I hope you're not going to read this one, Siberia. The red mark on your shoulder is down to a spider bite. I need no lamp to see your face. The stars lay waste day and night. In theme you are Eros, hearts chattering 90 to the minute. We do not say a lot of words. The snow melts and takes us with it. Through the earth and into the sky, shamanism pours us into creatures. The conversation is three-ply. Insects and birds become our skin. I open up my mouth to put you in, wait for you to fall from sleep, then pinch you with my mandibles and very softly whip.
Thank you very much, Ross. Ladies and gentlemen, Kiyoshi.
Thank everybody who's come. I see lots of friendly faces, so I'm not as nervous, and I'm hiding behind the podium, so that's super. I have a speech, but it's under 4 minutes long, so I'm aware that, speeches are not the done thing. I don't really say much between reading my poems, so just bear with me. Yeah, the title of the book, Homesick at Home, is taken from G.K. Chesterton's book, Orthodoxy, and I just want to read a quote from it. But I had heard that I was in the wrong place, and my soul sang for joy like a bird in the spring. The knowledge found out and illuminated forgotten chambers in the dark house of infancy. I knew now why grass had always seemed to me as queer as the green beard of a giant, and why I could feel homesick at home. I'm going to begin with a non-PC anecdote. What would you expect from me? It's not the first time I'm telling it, but it's the first time I'm telling it in public. And I'm sorry to see Michael O'Loughlin gone now, because he would appreciate the humour, because I shared it with a good friend of ours, Philip Casey, who passed away there recently. As a child growing up in the country, there weren't many role models I could identify with. It's not exactly a secret nowadays, but I'm glad things are changing. The two greatest obstacles in my young eyes were Christy Brown and Christopher Nolan. I remember being enraged even looking at them on the telly, aged 9 years old. Yes, I still have it. They did make fun of me at home, but that's just the Irish way, and I recall my father offering to run me over with the dumper truck to further my career, or injure me with the compressor. Yeah, it's a case of you've got Bob Hope and no hope, not a snowball's chance. The late Philip Casey, who passed away recently, wrote an article about the disabled, handicapped, cripples and gimps in literature, and we laughed privately at my story. He wrote, "Racehorses win races with handicaps after all. Some handicaps are not visible. Since an early age, my poetry has been my ruling passion, and I have never intentionally undertaken any task or formed any relations that seemed inconsistent with my poetic principles. And this has won me the reputation of being an eccentric." But never call me that to my face, by the way. Soundings, a book that changed my life, the poetry book used in secondary schools, had only one woman poet in it. That's one woman poet in 260 pages. Whilst the Fab Four of Yeats, Kavanagh, Kinsella and Clark took centre stage. This was an error of immense absurdity, as the world is made up of men and women. Being a woman poet in Ireland, indeed the world, is a handicap of sorts, particularly in relation to a level playing field and equality of opportunity. Now this is changing, supposedly, but slowly. I don't feel I owe anything to feminism now, but rather my own solid persistence and hard work. So what about the title, Homesick at Home? Chesterton attempts to explain the strange ways in which the world is both our home and not our home in his book, Orthodoxy. Home, both a place and an idea, is complex and multifaceted. It resonates as a spatial metaphor in everyday conversations. Home is where the heart is. There's no place like home, and is the subject of scholarly debate across many disciplines. Few words are as evocative as home. This word and the reality not taken fully into consideration. The home has potent meaning because it is the locus of everyday life and storehouse of objects and memories. People's relations with places are frequently saturated with emotions. It is possible to have feelings and bonds similar to those that are established between people and equally ambivalent. It's possible to be at peace with the universe and yet at war with the world. We do not fit into the world. This is the paradox at the heart of Homesick at Home. It is a modern allegory. But what of this tension? What of the experience of being in the world but not of it, of feeling homesick at home? Did Dorothy get it right? And another quote from Chesterton. "The point is not that this world is too sad to love or too glad not to love. The point is that when you do love a thing, its gladness is a reason for loving it, and its sadness a reason for loving it more." I would like to thank my close poet pals for their friendship and ears, even when I was bending them. In no particular order: Arthur Broomfield, poet and coordinator of Outburst, who lets me post way too much chicken stuff. Chris Murray, poet and founder of Poethead, who gave me an invaluable platform by publishing my poems in batches. That's what she does, look out for Poethead. Poet Michael O'Loughlin, Bill Lewis, Medway poet, and Brett Evans, Welsh poet and editor of Prole, that rambunctious and irreverent literary magazine. American poets Michael Carino and Quincy Lair, also Key Books Limerick and Pat McMahon for his invaluable publicity and countdown. And lastly, to my readers both at home and abroad, a poet is nothing without readers. And I'm going to read a few poems now. Okay. Life, friends, is boring. This is taken from a title of a poem by John Berryman. I thank the universe for an uneventful day. No sound or smell to trigger the action hero Steven Seagal out of his Buddhist shrine. An arsenal of guns at his disposal. Superstorm Sandy resting on her laurels. The mail was not entirely hostile. An assortment of bills and invite. Eurospar offers, Domino's Pizza reward card. Citywide news, I keep that too. Defrost the fridge, the Christian Review comes in handy too. The artist Alice Marr is far and it's icy outside. The bus ride takes too long to hang around for high art. I am awed and agitated like a bobblehead dashboard dog. Though I would travel to eat mushroom risotto at the farm, then kill time cruising the poetry section at Hodges Figures. John Berryman commits suicide on January 7th, 1972, by jumping from the Washington Avenue Bridge in Minneapolis. 9 months later to the day, I was born, and a strange gestation it seems to me. In my hometown I felt strange. Queer in the head, how slowly the mind turns. I am part of an indecent chorus, a frog among princes, suggestive and filthy. I eat blowflies so they cannot find you with their GPS chemical receptors, green and blue metallic uniforms, like some army from sci-fi. They trace the odours upwind and are among the first colonizers. They lay their eggs on dead bodies. Their eggs turn into maggots. Eventually those maggots form a cocoon. I will take coffee with you sometime around noon. Now this one, Expecting Rain. I don't do the in-between poem banter. It's just not me, because my poems are self-explanatory. So, Expecting Rain. Our brains are fogged, making love like porpoises on holiday. Adulterers are deep swimmers, but prefer to stay near the surface. Lust in the afternoon is preferable to an empty nest. Wives and husbands that no longer cook at home. Rain is always threatening this soggy landscape, stupid and full of holes like a sponge. A lone woman carries an umbrella when summer takes a nosedive to autumn. She wears lip balm and La Perla knickers. The train platform is crowded. Office types hold iPhones like dinner plates, rarely look where they're going. No one notices the woman. Thighs sizzle beneath a sensible coat. Young people mash and kiss in the open. Catch your eye for a moment, then let go. First love is selfish that way. The young think they are dolphins. Not much is known about harbour porpoises. Now let's see. Poet's House. This is a longer one. Poet's House. Water rushes the pipes. Pakistani neighbours live like vampires even when it's not Ramadan. A bronze tray on the carpet is the moon's reflection, embraced recklessly by Li Bai from his boat on the Yangtze. We self-medicate with bottles on the floor, talk about a brain tumour, a car crash, a hysterectomy. It feels useless to write a poem. The poet unpublished at home. We're bored, play spin the bottle, fuck with the door open. There is nothing soft about us. We rise early, mean as austerity. Safe lives are sad. Sad lives don't count. Puny men in starched shirts quote Rimbaud, the works of Plato and Machiavelli. They have no souls. Water rushes the pipes, but there is no hope of being cleansed. Only fools make amends for an existence without intoxication. Rise early and pay the bills. We have pills to swallow. Water rushes the pipes, yet we are dying of thirst like Li Bai, too smart to sit civil service exams. The poet's house is in the sky, with seagulls scudding in light, bright as sword maidens. Windows agape, blind sails slapping, rolling at anchor, mute awareness of sleeping on a boat, bodies mapping, extending beyond red brick and rooftops, cranes and clouds, the celadon grey-green of a water pipe, porcelana reeds. Swans make the first letter. L, 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 all the way down the canal to your house. I am plugged into iPhone, music, social media, alone among crowds, feigning interest in urban smears behind weepy glass, roaring awe of articulated truck tires, 2 fingers to carbon footprints, online shopping, jaw-dropping prices, magpies and natives suckered by shiny objects. Life is bright and flat like a bum note, the key of E major. Haydn barely touched it for symphonies. Mindfulness, as close as we get to contemplation. Love. I flush it out every day like a gun dog. Self-love, love for our fellow man, creatures. Love reciprocates, the giving an avalanche of open veins, overwhelming quantities to soothe the burn inside, like the Sacred Heart, except I am not the object of devotion, but will be. Now this, I have favourites. I know you shouldn't really say that, but I do. So this is Muldoon's Fishmonger, Dublin 7. I love Manor Street and I hang around Manor Street quite a lot. It's my stomping ground. So this is about a sign in the window of the fish shop. The hand-drawn sign in Muldoon's on Manor Street reads, "Fresh fish daily." It's a simple fact in this digital age. I read it on my daily commute like a benediction when the bus is stopped, the road a notorious bottleneck. I want love feasts, loaves and fishes. God moves in a mysterious way. Perhaps he travels by bus with fishers of men. Swim, little fishes. In darker days, headlights and taillights are glinting scales. We are blind. Separate fish from flesh. Draw an arc on foggy windows. Balance our souls on a scale pan. Witness the baptism of converts in puddle-soaked pedestrians. Now, dandelion clocks. I got into trouble for this one from a female poet with short hair. It is not about her, but you know. Which she seemed to think it was, so no names mentioned. So, dandelion clocks. Female poets with cropped hair bang on about their weariness. World weariness and immortality on the grey page. Here is grief and they're all alone, day after day after day. Lovers have skedaddled, now they drag the icy moon after them like a giant pill into middle age. This is the stage I dive roll across like a Navy SEAL, avoiding cat flaps and vintage nightgowns with tiny buttons up to the neck, trying not to look pensive. That finger cocked under the chin, faraway gaze, like Rodin's statue, but not the same. Bang! I inhabit a different space. My only dread going home, or whatever that means. To hang like a windsock on a calm day, awkward and out of place. I have moved on, and how I choose to wear my hair contains no clue to my tabernacle. The fugitive in me plays rummy and quaffs light beer, takes 2 foreign holidays a year, and listens to Wallace Bird full blast to my bones. I scrimped and saved all my words for grand sentences, the joy of christening nameless things, whether broken or chipped, chilled by the breath of history. No longer walking on tight rope, but stomping a Shan-nose dance. Here is the mystery, my feet dodging the bodies, scattered across the floor like unloved seeds of blowballs, our dandelion clocks. And the last, conspiracy. Sometimes when I write in my head, I have little voices. We shouldn't say that loud either. But sometimes I like to read with little voices, but it's very bright in here. I would have read before with Raven when we did stand-up stuff in Tonguebox. So that was fun because I could use my different voices there. I don't know if it'll work today because I only had one wine. Conspiracy. 2-headed flies like black dumbbells copulate on the wing. I worry about space junk, broken satellites, defunct rocket boosters. Stunned by heavy artillery, not your St. John's Wort, Gold Nip or Root. Why? This is lunatics. The Animal Research Centre on Plum Island, New York. Biological meltdown, terrorism, warfare in a densely populated part of America. We're all dead. There are no heroes. Operation Paperclip, anthrax, Homeland Security. I have the cocaine bugs and need a drink. Maybe I should move to Kansas. Forget about chemicals and cloud seeding. I blame the Irish damp and respiratory illness. After all, the Montauk monster turned out to be a badly decomposed raccoon. There is an explanation for everything. Global warming, recession, Lyme disease. A big fat tick feeds on my head. Time to put the red tops to bed. A man from Kentucky told me about the overhangs, how they groom each other there like monkeys. the tweaking and swaying on crossing of legs. What did you say? Huh? You don't like it when I smile? Fuck you, beatnik. Did some brainiac scientist bubble you up in a test tube? I am not amused. I fritter words that get you fan mail. We're all mad here. Thank you very much.
That was indomitable. We were whatever. The mighty Kiyoshi.
Yeah.
Adopting a pious attitude. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude, let me remind you that this is Maundy Thursday. The word Maundy comes to us as an Anglo-French word derived from the Latin mandatum, which means commandment. It refers to when Jesus, in the upper room during the Last Supper, said to the disciples, "A new commandment I give you, that you will love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another." Well, on this Maundy Thursday, my commandment to you is that you love Kate O'Shea as she has loved you through her writing of the 63 poems in this book. The best way to love Kate O'Shea, and us, the humble publishers, is by purchasing at least one copy of her book. That is my commandment to you, all of you, this evening. Rock on, folks.
No, what's going on?
This has been streamed in Carolina.
I hope it doesn't get as far as Valley Road.
Smiling.
Lisa,
Okay, why are we
you're in me.
Honey and Dominic, give you such a big one. You're even better.